What is up, everybody? Matt Modai here with some bangers for the NBA Finals Game 4. Let's hope that this is not the last NBA game of the season. If it is, it's been a phenomenal ride on the entire year. It's been a pretty good ride on the playoffs as well. As for Game 4, I'm going to have technically four actually, bangers for you guys to lock in. Three plays, and then one of them I am laddering. Before I can give you those picks, let's do a recap from Game 3, which was a pretty good day overall. Luckily, Kyrie Irving saved me for Game 3. I had him over his main line, 22.5. That cashed. I had him 25 plus points. That cashed. And I had him 30 plus points. That cashed. Because of Kyrie and Kyrie alone, we were up on Game 3, up about 1.18 units. If I had just stuck to Kyrie, it would have been a better day. But I added Jaylen Brown over 5.5 first quarter points. He went 1 of 4 in the first quarter. Yeah, ended with 4 points. Pretty tough there. And then I had Derrick Jones Jr., a half unit on him to make 2 plus 3-pointers. Just a really, really bad read there. I mean, I think he got 1 3-point attempt that got blocked. His minutes got cut. Just a really bad read on the Derrick Jones play. But thank you to Kyrie for giving us a profitable day overall. In the playoffs, we are up 10.28 units, I believe, about 10.3 units. And on the entire season, regular season plus playoffs, we're up about 118 units. It's been an amazing season. 118 units of profit's crazy. 10 plus units of profit in the playoffs is pretty good. Let's hope that we have a good day in Game 4 so that if it is the last game of the season, we can be above the 120 unit mark of profit on the season. That would be amazing. If you are not already, I would appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button. In the summer, we'll do MLB, we'll do WNBA, and then once football season starts, then we'll be cooking from there. And then for this specific video, like, comment, all that good stuff. We can get right into it. So obviously, all of these plays are going to be in the Celtics versus Mavericks game. The first play that we're going to go ahead and lock in here is Luka Doncic over 3.5 made 3-pointers. This is offered at -112 odds at DraftKings. Honestly, I wasn't planning on taking Luka threes when I was starting my research. I really just don't understand what the books are doing with this price and why they're pricing it at 3.5 for relatively reasonable odds, right? Like getting it at -112 isn't terrible. And it's been an interesting run for Luka from the 3-point department. He started off just ice cold. I mean, the entire Clippers series, 3/4 of the Thunder series, he just could not get a shot from deep to go. Well, that's long behind us because he's been on fire from deep over the past 10 games. He's cashed this in 8 of his last 10 games. Dating back, it was the last 2 games of the Thunder series. And then since then, again, he's cashed it in 8 of 10. And in one game that he missed, he still made 3 3-pointers. So it isn't like he completely bottomed out or anything like that. The one game in which he did bottom out happened to also be the last game that he played, Game 3 against the Celtics, where he went 1 of 7 from deep. So maybe he's starting another brutal cold streak, but I just don't see why this is priced at 3.5, again, for the relatively reasonable odds. If you look at the prices where this was priced heading into Game 1 and heading into Game 2, you would have to take like -170 odds on him to get to 4 or more made 3-pointers. And some books even offered his over-under at 4.5. Granted, that 4.5, the over was juiced to plus odds, but still, that's a huge deal from 4 to 5, right? And you know that Luka is going to chuck a bunch of 3-pointers. You can at least count on his volume. He's averaged over 9 3-point attempts in the 3 games this series. He made 4 in games 1 and 2, and then again, last game, he only went 1 of 7. So unless the Mavericks just completely, their spirit is dead and they're going to lay down and die and be ready for Cancun in Game 4, which sure, maybe that's possible. I just don't understand this price. This series was always going to be a good matchup for Luka Doncic and his 3-pointers. I illustrated that heading into Game 1. I doubled down on it heading into Game 2. And it's all because of how the Celtics play defense. I knew this was going to be a good series for Luka and his 3-pointers. It just was never really priced at a good price, which it is right now. And the reason why, and you're probably sick of me saying this, but it's because of the Celtics and how they guard pick and rolls. They don't blitz. They will sometimes switch, but they don't send a ton of help. Even if guys they presume to have a mismatch, like they let Peyton Pritchard go one-on-one against Luka. They let Luke Cornett, Sam Hauser, go one-on-one against Luka. What they will do on pick and rolls is they will opt to play drop coverage. Whoever is the big man that is on the other side of the pick and roll, not the one-on-one defender to Luka, but the defender of the big man, they will drop. They want to keep everything in front of them. That leads to a lot of pull-up three-point attempts that the Celtics allow and a lot of above-the-break three-point attempts that the Celtics allow as well. In the regular season, the Celtics allowed the second most above-the-break three-point attempts in the entire NBA and literally the most pull-up three-point attempts in the entire NBA. And that defensive style, that hasn't changed in the finals either. And then looking at Luka, he attempted the most pull-up three-pointers in the regular season and the second most above-the-break three-pointers in the regular season, only behind Steph Curry. So it's a matchup play against the Celtics defense, and we get to fade recent results as well because he was 1 of 7 from deep in game 1. So I really, really like this play. That's our first one. Next up, let's stick with the same player, and let's take Luka Doncic over 8.5 first quarter points. This is offered at -105 odds at DraftKings. Now, I get that it's risky taking two props on the same guy in Luka. Now, if there's ever somebody to back in multiple ways, it would be Luka. Again, unless the Mavericks just lay down and die in game 4. But I knew I wanted action in the first quarter point prop after watching how game 1 went. I kind of looking at the odds is what led me into the three-pointer prop, but I really do like this first quarter one. This is the play that we are going to ladder. I'm going to take him to score 10 plus points in the first quarter as well. I'm putting a half unit on that at +135 odds at bet 365. So for our three-point prop, we were fading recent results. We are absolutely not doing that in this one. Luka has been awesome in the first quarter in the last 2 games, scoring 13 points in each of game 2 and game 3 in the first quarter. But funny enough, despite that, we're actually getting a better price on his first quarter point prop in game 4 than we did in game 3. And I didn't play it in game 3, but in game 3, it was over-under was still 8.5, and it was priced at like -120, -130, depending on where you looked. Now, the reason why we're getting a better price in game 4 is because Luka, his point prop has dropped a little bit. And all the sports books do when they price first quarter props specifically is they just look at what their full game prop is and divide that by 4 and then kind of price the odds based on that. The sports books, and I'm guessing they're going to catch up the more people find out about this, but they don't really take into account if the player is a fast starter or not, which Luka is absolutely a fast starter. He's cashed over 8.5 first quarter points in 5 of his last 7 games of these playoffs. In one game that he went under, he scored exactly 8, so that would have just hooked us. And then one game he scored 7 points, so it was not hook, but still 1 bucket away. And that was actually game 1 of these finals when he scored 7 points, and then again 13 in games 2 and 3. And in the first quarter of this series, he's averaging over 7 field goal attempts in the first quarter. So after fouling out in game 3, being down 3-0, you hope that they're going to show some sort of pride. And you hope that Luka is going to come out for blood in game 4 after the way game 3 ended. And this is another thing that I've mentioned a bunch of times in this series, but this was always a matchup for Luka to dominate from a points perspective. It's all about how the Celtics play defense. The reason why the Celtics are winning this series 3-0 is because Luka's been just a total traffic cone on defense, but it's because the Celtics aren't letting anybody else beat them. The role players on the Mavericks have done nothing. And Luka, being a fast starter in general, and in the way the Celtics play defense, leading to a ton of points for the main pick and roll ball handler, I love backing Luka in the first quarter specifically. So again, it's a full unit on the main line over 8.5 at -105, and it is a half unit on him to get to 10 plus as well. That's our second play. Third and final pick of the video, obviously same game. I'm taking Jaylen Brown under 3.5 assists. This is at +140 odds at bet 365. So this one, it's going to be very, very scary. I totally understand that. And I'm going to put a half unit on this one. I'm not putting a full unit on this one. I'm just going to put half a unit on it. That's what the 0.5 U means. But what we're doing here, we're just betting on regression. Jaylen Brown has crushed this assist line in the past 2 games. 2 outlier performances, if you ask me. He's not known to be a high-level passer. He is not a high-level passer, but in the last 2 games, he's had 7 and 8 assists, so 7 in game 2, 8 in game 3, with 12 and 14 potential assists in those 2 games as well. That's why we're getting this at +140 odds. That's why this play feels gross. But again, we are just betting on regression. If you look at the entire playoff run for Jaylen Brown, he's played in 17 games. That includes these last 2, just the total games played of 17. He's only gone over 3.5 assists in 4 of those 17 games. Again, that includes these last 2. So heading into game 2 of the finals, he'd only gone over 3.5 assists in 2 of 15 games of the playoffs, again, heading in to game 2. In these entire playoffs, in this 19-game sample size, he's averaging 3.2 assists per game. So even with the fact that he's crushed this assist number in the last 2 games, he's still averaging under this amount, while he's averaging 6.7 potential assists in the playoffs as well. Now, if you look at every single game that Jaylen Brown has played last year and this year, playoffs, regular season, every single game combined, Jaylen Brown goes over 3.5 assists at a 42% rate. Now, I get that matchups are different, right? Him going under against the Pacers doesn't necessarily mean anything against the Mavericks. The only thing I'm trying to illustrate here is that Jaylen Brown is not known to be a player that racks up a bunch of assists, and it's because he's not a high-level passer who is not really the type of player that can make advanced reads. Normally, when Jaylen Brown drives, it's with the goal of scoring. But what he's been doing in this series is he's been driving at a higher rate. The Mavericks on-ball defense has been horrible. But when Jaylen Brown is driving, the Mavericks are kind of sending haphazard, not really good help, either crashing in from the corner, which means he has a really easy kick-out opportunity, or the big man comes off their man, and then Jaylen Brown just has an easy dish to the big man under the basket who has an easy bucket. Those are 2 really easy reads to make for a guy like Jaylen Brown. So as bad as the Mavericks defense has been, and it's been terrible, you just have to believe that they're going to try to do something different on the defensive end to try and contain Jaylen Brown drives. Take away those easy reads, and he's not a player who's going to rack up a bunch of assists. So it's a sweaty play. That's why we're putting a half unit on it. But I really like betting his under assists after 2 outlier performances in a row. We'll see what happens. I'm calling my shot that he's going to go under. And that's all we got. 3 mainline plays plus 1 ladder play. So 4 bangers for you guys to lock in. Again, make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.